Hello, everyone. So I'm going to first play some music, but I'm going to pretty much just explain what has happened in the first 9 sessions. To give you just a small rundown, I'm trying to run this show called A Sliver of Silver, where we play with two other player characters. I'm the DM, and I want to record these. Now, I didn't end up recording the first 9, mostly because I just didn't have like the stream set up, the recording set up, but now I have it more or less set up. It's a little janky, but there can always be some touch ups. But I'm starting to record now, so this is going to be a little backstory to get you caught up in things. I'm kind of doing this on the fly, um, and actually, I need to pull up my notes really quickly, but have them off screen. Um, so, first and foremost, um, let's start with the setting. So when I came to my players, I told them this is going to be fully homebrewed. I also tried out these players. I went through an extensive um, tryout. I did a lot of tryouts, which lasted about a month, give or take, before we eventually got into game, and we landed on 2 players. Um, and a big reason I did this way is just because not everyone gets along like stylistically. I like very low fantasy and a low fantasy setting, high RP play style, low combat. Although I don't mind combat, it's just yeah I don't I like to make these games very open worldy, and so I started by asking my players what kind of setting they wanted to do. I generally, I sort of, they seem very open to whatever. So I told them that the current setting takes place on this continent that has recently been, over the past century, been dominated by this empire, this newly found empire called the Sylvan Empire. And so I wanted to put these players in a town or a city or something on the edge of the empire, where there's not a strong grasp. And they would sort of be put in a position where this area is starting to rebel against the empire. And it's their job to, well, what they decided on was they wanted to work with the for the Sylvan Empire. So they are part of a sort of national guard. And I can explain more about that a little bit later. But they are working for essentially a national guard that's situated in this little town, in this middle, not little, but in this city called Rhineland. Rhineland has, I believe, 50 to 100,000 people, if I'm locations. Let's see, where is Gallon cities? Rhineland. Rhineland info. Oh, sorry, I'm way off. 10,000. So about 10,000 people live here in Rhineland. So this is supposed to be this backwater town, which doesn't have a lot going on for it. And they were given a job. They were selected, and both characters. I'll introduce them just after this. And they're here to help advise their commander, who's looking to put that put their flag in the pole and declare that this is Sylvan Empire. You guys better listen to us. So our main cast is Halifax, who is a human paladin. He is a paladin of Faina, the goddess of hope and faith, and those are sort of like the ideologies. I can pull this pantheon. So Faina is the goddess of hope, faith, trust, and like positive outlook. These are concepts that are sort of grouped together. With my whole pantheon, there's a bunch of different concepts, but we're not going to get into all of that right now. So we have our paladin. He, Halifax, or Hal for short, is an older fellow, maybe in his like 30s or 40s, kind of forget. And he has been working with the Empire for a while, but more recently, he's sort of become disgruntled. A lot of people are not taking their jobs seriously. The Empire has been in a time of peace for the past, century or so, half century closer. And he's become a little disgruntled. And yeah, so that's him. Our other character, Theomore, is a young human wizard who is in his early 20s, and he graduated from there's this centralized university for wizards that the Empire, they gather all the young, smart kids with a lot of potential and put them in through the schooling system so that they can create this unified wizard front and control just like information and magic themselves through their own institution. And so Theomore was brought up through this institution, and so he's really bought into the propaganda by the Sylvan Empire about how great it is, how powerful, how just, how it's a meritocracy. I try to base my... I'm not the biggest history nerd, but I try to base the Sylvan Empire a little bit off of Rome, a little bit. Not fully, but in some ways. Their commander is Lady Sliver, who is a daughter of one of the 5 major noble families in the entire empire. She is part of the Siren family. And without going too much into her backstory, her mother is a great warrior who is was just of the civilian class, whether peasant or working, not too sure. But she, through her merit, through how powerful she was a big boon and a big asset to one of the in one of these larger battles over territory, which was the most recent conquered part of the empire. Well, it's still like 30 or so years ago. But so she was young when she did that, and so through her power, she's gained nobility, partially because she also married into a noble family, but her husband was sort of a lesser noble, a senator of sorts, but not a high-ranking noble. But together they got married. They had some children, and so Sliver is a middle child. She's the third oldest out of 4, so second youngest child. 3 girls, 1 boy in the family. And her older sister gets all the glory because her older sister is super amazing. And her younger sister also she just doesn't care about a lot of things. She has her own thing going for her. Don't have to worry about her. Brother is off in the capital, having his party life, while Sliver has this chip on her shoulder that she should do great things, or she wants to try to do great things, but she doesn't have that, how do you say it? She doesn't have the capacity, per se. She's not as talented as their other family members or as her mother, and so she's often overlooked, as is the middle child often is. What else? They came pretty underprepared, so the whole group was 10 plus 3, so they brought on, or I believe it was, no, 8 plus 3. So there were 4 swordsmen and 4 bowmen, along with the paladin, along with Halifax, Theomore, the mage, the wizard, and Sypha, Lady Commander Sypha. So that was the group, small group. And so there have been questions amongst themselves if they've been set up to fail. Who created the task force? Because it wasn't Sypha, as we learn, I think, in one of these episodes that are recorded. She, actually, if that's the case, I'm not going to explain that. But who created this group? And were they set up to fail? They came to Rhineland, where there was no other Sylvan Empire in the area. The latest group, there was a former group here from the Sylvan Empire, but over the New Year's, there was an expedition that called upon to go to a far away island, and so the people who were stationed here left. And so about a month or so later, after the New Year's, we have our party that arrived just on the shore right here by Collingwood, between Collingwoods and Hangman Forest. As they came over, they saw giant foot tracks leading from the Hangman Forest into the Collingwoods, but they did not end up fighting this. Once they reached halfway through the journey, they ended up overnight spotting a group of people. They never made contact with them, and they stayed their distance, about a few hundred yards or a few hundred meters away, as they camped out. However, overnight, 1 or 3 of their members who were supposed to be on watch ended up going to this group, and they ended up partying the night. Their gear ended up being stolen. It delayed their travels, and one of them was missing, while the other 2 were clearly hung over and passed out in the morning. The group decided to head to Rhineland without them. What ended up happening was, once they got to Rhineland, the 2 soldiers who were not missing, they ended up coming back, or they ended up coming to town, and they both got hung by Lady Sypha as a display of force, and this would have been for abandoning their post. The other member, the other member, we end up catching up with him multiple episodes later, who ended up joining this mercenary group, who is placed somewhere between Heimber and Ossel. While the main party was in Rhineland, they realized that this Rhineland was incredibly poor, and that their first job was essentially to collect taxes, but they haven't done so yet, and they've run into a whole bunch of problems. One of their problems is that they're supposed to have a mine in operation in this mountain to the south of Rhineland. However, their mine seems to be not very operable, and the sole local lord, Lord Tinning, Ryeth Tinning is his name, he runs a bigger mine in this area, and he seems to be making a lot of money. The Empire's mine is sort of beside this mine, but it seems like a lot of the workforce has moved over to the tinning mine. These guys ship goods from Rhineland to Ossel. They mostly smelt the ore back in Rhineland. Yeah. It turns out that when the party, which was usually solely Theomore and Halifax, they went to go investigate the mine when they were ambushed by goblins, and it turned out that this ambush was plotted by the Tinning administration. Maybe not Lord Tinning himself, but part of his men plotted this. And so there has been bad blood between the two. There's another group in town, which is called the Black Bronze Family, and they are this kind of underground organization. And let me just bring us to the Rhineland map. So here, I'm just going to draw a little bit. We are going to have a B for the, let's do double B. This is for the Black Bronze Family. And so they live in this castle outside of town. Tinning lives here. So this is the Tinning estate. And so this Black Bronze family, they seem to be a group of thieves, murderers, and a sort of underground police. And it's unclear what the connection is between the Tinning estate and the Black Bronze family. However, after our group came back from the mine, they went to go investigate a man's house that was being he was sort of bait for the plot against his will. There was a miner who was strung up by the goblins, and they ended up our party ended up going to his house after he left town when they came back from the mine. When they met, they ran into some of the Black Bronze family who was ransacking the miner's house. There was a fight, and our party was victorious. Afterwards, the Black Bronze were likely not happy with this ordeal, and so they set fire to the northern wall. Although while the best guess is that it was the Black Bronze, our party is not sure exactly why they did it. But it became obvious after they left town and they came back. Our party was not sure about how to act, and they knew that, let's just go back to our local map. They knew that there was a bigger group of the National Guard working in Heimber. So they made a trek to Heimber where they almost got one shot by a bear on their way over there, but we'll look past that. There was a super strong bear who's just the luckiest bear in the world, who pretty almost killed them both. But they ended up making to Heimber, and they tried to talk to the general, the Sylvan general that was working out of Heimber, and that Heimber basically said that, no way, I'm not giving you my men. He was very antagonistic to our party members. Our party members, specifically Hal, stormed off, and while he was outside of this barracks or room of some sort, a noble approached him to make a deal where the noble would give some of his men as mercenaries for our party, and in return, his son, Samley, the noble family's Bergen, so Samley Bergen, the son, would go on a date with Lady or Commander Sypha. Our party agreed happily to this endeavor, and they made their way back. But because of the bear attack and because of coming back, this journey took over a week. And during this time, Rhineland was ransacked. Most of the town was annihilated by what is likely to be gibberlings who were killing everything on sight. Most of the peace survivors ended up staying at the Tinning Estate, where there was only a few hundred people alive. Our party, not our party, but our group of Sylvan soldiers, they ended up getting stuck in Rhineland. They did suffer one casualty as well. There was I don't know if this is told in one of our episodes, so I'm not trying to explain too much, but I think this is roughly a spot where this catches you up with most of what's happening. A few additional information that I sort of left out is that there is this area called the Fungal Marsh, and this area is where a witch lives. Which our party calls her a witch or a necromancer. Her formal name has not been given, but there's been some alluding to who she is in I think the episodes that I will that have been recorded. So she's another major character. Let's just go over a few more major characters. Tinning, he had four mercenary soldiers. He had a high-level soldier called Han, who's supposed to be pretty powerful. He has a wizard called, where some people call him the Dark, I think the Dark Mage, the Dark Wizard, something like that. But he has never called himself that, nor has any of his allies, but that's what people call him, and that's what our party calls him. He has an adorable little cat, a little black cat as well. A very important major character. We also have Josepa, who is another fighter, that's another mercenary fighter, also fairly strong, but not as strong as Han. There was another man, a man with no name. He refused to give him his name when he was captured by our party, but he ended up dying out in the town square when he was sort of put up as the Empire's sign that, like, don't disrespect us. But he didn't die from them. He got stabbed by some other third party. Perhaps the Black Bronze family, perhaps someone else. We're not too sure. When our party was trying to figure out who killed him, there was one person with information, or possibly had information, and that person ended up dying also on his way over to the police station at night. This was sort of out of their control. Let's see, what else do we have? We have Mori. Mori, although we'll see him in these episodes. So Mori is a teenage kid who has he's shown to help out our witch by, and also our party, by doing odd jobs. He does odd jobs for money. He's a teenager, about 14 years old. Pretty awkward kid. We also have Father Julius, who is a priest of, a priest of the town. Not a cleric, or at least apparently not a cleric. Shown not to have any magical powers so far, but he is a priest in town. Aside from that, there's, of course, other minor characters, but those are the major ones. I think that's everything. So just a little bit more backstory. We live in a world that is illiterate, so not everyone can read. I'm going to take you to the world map. Oh, I don't need to bring players here. The world map, of course, is not fully done yet. I've done about half of it, or maybe not even half, who knows. So let's just do some drawings. Actually, no. Let's do just a few drawings, not all the drawings. So, Sylvan is the capital. So this is the capital right here. The Siren is over here. So this is where Lady Sypha's family rules. Roughly this area is under Siren control. So and this is Longcast, which is where the university is for wizards. So these are some important locations. Rhineland is here on the right. This whole area is technically called Gallon, but it's sort of been divided in two. This is oops, I need to include Heimhole here. This southern part, especially this central southern part, is ran by one of the big families that is strong allies with the Sylvan family, the Emperor's family. This area is what is more formally known as Gallon, even though the whole island subcontinent is called Gallon. When people talk about Gallon, they're usually referring to this area, which is where our party resides, although it's a little bit of a flexible nomenclature. Technically it involves these guys as well, even though they're not part of the island. Gallo is the biggest city, which is where the noble lives over. So there's one of the major households lives here, and one lives here. So these are three. There is another major household. I think we talk about this in the episode, so don't need to go over that. But the Sylvan Empire, the head family technically resides over this place, but they sort of delegate this entire area to the fourth biggest, or the fourth other, not biggest, but it is one of the biggest, but the fourth other major noble family who sort of runs this area, while the emperor runs the city as well as the empire. Other place, less developed. Last important thing is that this little area here is where elves are from. So, I think that's pretty much covers all the important stuff. Everything else that's important we will see in our episodes. So right now, for account for our party, we have our two guys. We have Sypha. They're still alive. We have 3 swordsmen, or 3 soldiers, male soldiers, who are Meyer, Liam, and Steven. Meyer has seemed to be kind of racist towards the locals, while the other 2 are a bit more antagonistic of Halifax and Theomore. They respect them, but they're a little antagonistic. They butt heads a little bit, but these guys are loyal, more or less. You also have Julia. She's a very timid swordswoman. But she's very trustworthy to the party. The party loves her. She's great. We also previously had Melissa, but Melissa is dead. She died in the gibberling attack. We had 2 other people. Who else did we have? We had Henry, who died. Oh, just Meyer. We had Henry, who died, and Chloe, who also died. They were the 2 that got hanged. And Jonathan is the guy that ran away and he ended up they ended up meeting him with those other mercenaries. So those are pretty much all that's the party members. Everyone's was level 1 when they showed up. Pretty much everyone, all our members are level 1, except for our 2 party members who are now both level 3. So we have level 3. So we've done like 13 episodes and we both just hit level 3. We also use a 2E D&D rule set. So the rules are going to be slightly different from 5th edition. And when I say slightly, majorly, there's no cantrips as one of the major things. And yeah, well, you'll see. I don't want to explain the whole rules. But, yeah. All right. Well, I think that's it for this video. This video's been long enough. Thank you for watching this introduction. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the season and episodes. All right. Well, take care. I'll see you then.